Welcome to the Calder Farmstead.
Now the Ice Hawks back out to center in transition. Carlson with Quenneville 2-on-1. Right with Carlson, Quenneville scores!
Here's a chance for Barron. Fighting scores! Off the face-off! Up in Zeminger. Pulled back to Wierenski. Has it, shoots one, bounces off a man. 5 seconds left. Wierenski, another jam on the shot, turning and firing. They go! Scores! They score! Now they catch each other and they both go right over the top. Matching rights to one another. McDermott gets the helmet off of Cassie.
And now with 9 minutes gone in overtime, the Bears breaking out right side with Bear. Looks like cutting to the net. Bear will score!
And here are your hosts, Cece and Sean.
Hello and greetings from the mile-high city of Denver, Colorado.
And Cockanoe Island, Connecticut.
Well, Cockanoe to you too.
Hey,
welcome.
Family show.
Right.
Show.
Sorry, forgive me. We'll have to bleep that out. Welcome to the Calder Farmstead Podcast, episode number 53 for Friday, October 15th, 2021. If you were hoping for a podcast featuring troubleshooting when soil is too wet to begin disking, we are not going to be much help because I don't even know what that is. This is an American Hockey League podcast. My name is CC Hockley, the editor of Full Press Hockey, the AHL editor, rather.
And I'm Sean O'Brien from StatsTrack and the AHL's only league-wide analytics guy.
And as always, we thank you for tuning in with us.
If you're new to hearing CC and I talk about hockey, we're going to preview some of the teams in the AHL for the upcoming 21-22 season. We both watch a lot of AHL games and are going to talk about what we see when we watch the film, as well as use some advanced stats to help us break it down. If that's new to you, you may want to head over to our podcast feed or YouTube channel, wherever you're listening to us from, and check out episode 0. It's a short primer on some of the stats we're going to be talking about, as well as how we view what's important on the ice. So if you're new to some of the more advanced hockey stats terms, like the point shares model, or newer hockey terms like controlled zone entries, go check that out so you better be able to pick up what we're putting down. I promise it's not that nerdy or technical. It's only 20 minutes. And let's be honest, you wasted 20 minutes today trying to figure out what exactly qualifies as taunting in the NFL these days. You'll never get that time back. So next time, why not spend a little more time with us talking hockey?
Hell, I feel like we've made that joke before, but it's been an ongoing problem. We still don't know what a taunt is in the NFL.
I thought it was starting Joe Flacco, but apparently that's not true.
Oh, well, Denver was taunting opponents for the first 6 games a couple seasons ago. Anyway, I digress. Let's get into the preview today. I was about to say tonight, but tonight, whenever we are previewing the Hartford Wolfpack and the Bridgeport Islanders. In that order. Sean's got the Wolfpack jersey on, and I've got orange and blue because this is the only orange and blue I have. Denver hat, Boise State shirt. So we are perfectly balanced, as all things should be. Let's get right to it. Wolfpack, let's dive into their stats capsule. Hartford, their head coach is Chris Knobloch, not to be confused with Chuck if you're a baseball fan. Chris Knobloch entering his 3rd season as the bench boss over there in Hartford, Connecticut. 2021 record in the Groundhog's Day division where they only played Providence and Bridgeport, 14-9-1-0. By God, they almost captured that Atlantic Division title too with that last game against Providence. .604 points percentage, second out of 3 teams in the Atlantic Division last year. It's a little more robust this year. It's a little more sizable for sure. Affiliations for 21-22, the New York Rangers of the NHL, and coming over from their affiliation with Winnipeg and Manitoba, the Jacksonville Icemen, way down in Jacksonville, Florida. Games scheduled for this year, 72. Let's talk new additions to the team. Tanner Fritz, Cristiano Di Giacinto. Giacinto. There you go. Greg Mckeig, one of the best hockey names out there. Lori Payuniemi. There we go. Lori Payuniemi. Zack Jones, Matthew Robertson, and that's all. Or at least some of the notable ones. Subtractions. Mason Gearston, Vincent Laverde, Darren Radish, Patrick Seeloff, Ryan Demowski, Gabriel Fontaine, went over to the Colorado Eagles. Patrick Newell, Will Cooley. Will Cooley went back to juniors. He is still in the organization, but you will not see him until he is done playing at the major juniors level. All right. First and foremost, for the forwards core, let's dive into the individual players here. And of course, We're going to be talking about Morgan Barron. Now, Barron was absolutely a victim of the shortened season, and his omission from the all-rookie team was a crime worthy of its own Netflix documentary. Let's be clear here. Barron was the Wolfpack's power play last season. He was directly involved in over half of the power play goals last year, and indirectly involved in probably a few more. Barron's strength is he's a shooter. Shooter's going to shoot. Even catching off-target passes, Barron can collect them and fire shots with alarming velocity and release. His puck skills and playmaking vision are okay, but nothing great. My biggest concern is his skating. Quite a few times he was late to pucks in high danger areas because of it. His skating has improved over the years, but it's still well below average. Defensively, he's useful, but I'd like to see him finish checks more often, as he has the size to be punishing, but pulls up more often than I'd like. He's a good penalty killer too. Overall, he's likely an easy top-line option for the Wolfpack this season, as if all of that praise should surprise you with the outcome. Next up, Greg Mckeig, the Scottish beer-chugging champion, is back to play for his 5th Atlantic Division team. Wow, 5? He's played for 5 Atlantic Division teams. That's something.
5.
Wow. He's a good skater with very good puck skills and a good shot, although he does need to shoot more. Shooter's going to shoot. He needs to shoot. He's a career 15.4% shooter in the AHL and a 12.9% career shooter in the NHL. Yet he's single digits in goals most season because he doesn't produce the shot volume, or enough of a shot volume rather, to capitalize on it. Defensively, I don't think that much of him. He won't be a liability, but he's not a game changer in his own end. He has NHL level talent and should be a top 6 option for Hartford this coming season. Time to talk about Johnny Brodzinski. Johnny B. Good was big driver of the offense for Hartford last season, only having 2 games that he did not get on the score sheet. Most impressive. While I don't think he maintains a near 32-goal, 92-point pace for the Wolfpack this season, I think there's enough skill there to be a solid contributor. He has good but not great puck skills and playmaking vision that looked improved last season. He has a nose for the net and can finish plays in tight. He's not the best shooter, but he gets shots from dangerous areas. I'm not a fan of his skating. I think he's too upright in his stride and doesn't generate power because of it. Defensively, he's solid, but unspectacular. He does the job, but isn't defensively away from the play. He can kill penalties in a pinch, though. I think he's a good second-line winger this season. No more, no less for the Wolfpack. Tim the Tower Gettinger. A good season from the Tower as he found some more offense than I was expecting. He has good puck skills, especially in tight, but his playmaking vision is limited, despite having what I'd imagine is an overhead camera angle viewpoint of the ice. There's a reason that he's nicknamed the Tower, or at least we have nicknamed him that. He's solid around the net front and can score with tips or by winning battles for rebounds. His actual shot mechanics are actually pretty good, though. His skating isn't bad for his size, but he's not a good skater per se. Defensively, he's solid and has the attention to detail and awareness you love to see if you're a coach. I'd still like to see more physicality and willingness to bully opponents a bit more from him. Big guy. You want to see that out of your taller dudes. But I expect him to be a useful middle 6 winger this coming year. Next up, we have Tyroning. And it's hard to know what to make out of the breakout season from Tyroning. He always had an interesting skill set. He's got decent puck skills and good playmaking vision. He's a decent shooter with a long history of being able to score from mid-range and lower levels. He's an above-average skater with decent speed and edge work. All that being said, he's been easily pushed to the perimeter in the past in the AHL due to his size, and lack of top-end speed to turn corners on defensemen. And his skill set isn't one that does well on the perimeter at the AHL level, so that's a double whammy there. Defensively, he's still not a factor and rarely puts forth the effort to make an impact. Perhaps he took bigger steps forward last season as a player than I'm giving him credit for, and if that's the case, I will happily admit when I'm wrong when the time comes. You guys know that both Sean and I are ready and willing to do that because it happens quite frequently around here.
Okay,
okay. Okay, not frequently, but I guess I still have Henderson in my mind. That was kind of a big omission last year. So not frequently, but when we do, we go big or go home. There we go. All right, so back to back to Ronning. Let's finish up with him. I'm skeptical that Tyroning's production from last season sticks in a meaningful way this season as the AHL gets back to normal. Again, we shall see how that prediction shakes out. Anthony Greco, it seems like a lifetime ago that Greco was an AHL All-Star. He had 29 plus goals in back-to-back seasons and was the best skater in the AHL. While he's still an elite skater with speed and edge work that are high-end, the rest of his game just looks low effort as he started last season looking uninspired. Found his game a bit in the middle, and then he just kind of tailed off again. His hockey IQ and puck skills are merely good, while he's still a solid shooter. His defensive effort was never great, but feels like it hit an all-time low last season, which is sad, given that with his skating speed, he could always be a valuable back checker. If Greco is able to find some sense of his game from 2 seasons ago, he can be a stud in the AHL again. And if not, he's another middling depth scorer output, and that output, again, looks likely. All right, back to this Finnish name that I had trouble with earlier. Lauri Paluniemi. There we go. Paluniemi comes over from the Finnish top pro league, Liga, where he terrorized goalies for 2 seasons. He has a great release and catches passes smoothly, so he can rip shots right away without having to stick handle once or twice to settle the puck, which is a huge advantage, as that extra half second is the difference between a goalie out of position and square to the shooter most of the time. His puck skills and playmaking vision aren't that bad, but they aren't great either, as he's somewhat of a one-dimensional forward, as his skating is below average as well, as his mechanics aren't that great. He's got a solid work ethic and he's a useful forechecker, even if he lacks that speed. Defensively, he's adequate, but will not likely be killing penalties. His shooting makes him a lock for power play time in a top 6 role, but I think there's a small chance he carves out an even bigger role if he can find chemistry with line mates. Sean, do you see him maybe finding some chemistry with Morgan Barron?
I think he could. My concern, like in an ideal world, I think you could put Barron, Greco, and Jeez, now you got me screwing it up. Paluniemi on the same line, because I feel like you have Greco to make zone entries with his speed, Paluniemi and Morgan Barron to kind of set up the shooting and playmaking aspects of that, as well as Barron can play net front, and then you can have Greco kind of do the back checking, as well as have Paluniemi be, when they lose possession of the puck, be the first forechecker. Like, I feel like they cover a lot of the roles you would want in a line there, but line chemistry, especially among players who don't play a lot together, is weird. Like, there are a lot of instances in which you would think, oh yeah, just a situation like that where you have complementary skills all coming together, and then it's like, yeah, but it doesn't work. Like, it's sometimes you have, 2 players who have a lot of overlapping skills, and then they find one player who's nothing like them, and then all of a sudden it just comes together somehow. Like, line chemistry is a weird thing to try and predict. So it's one that I usually try and shy away from, even if it looks on paper like it should make sense.
That's fair. That is completely fair, because chemistry is most certainly a thing. And just because it looks good on paper doesn't mean it's going to flesh out in reality.
Yeah. Actual chemistry is a science. Line chemistry is an art.
Absolutely. Agree with that 100%.
All right, let's talk defense here, because I've been sitting idly here on the beach for a while. Let's talk Tarmo Reunanen. Reunanen's an offensive-minded defenseman for sure. His puck skills are very good, and he can make plays in the offensive zone with his vision to set teammates up for quality scoring chances. He's not a bad shooter, but he's not a great shooter either. His biggest knock is his skating, which is below average. That skating keeps him from being a more effective defender of his blue line in transition. In zone, he's adequate and kills plays with his hockey IQ more than physicality. He's likely going to be a top-pair defenseman for Hartford this season, which concerns me, as I don't think he's good enough for that, but we'll see if he progresses enough to make me look bad. We're all about, making bold predictions here that maybe aren't that bold, but we will own when the time comes. The old saying of never trust a man with 2 first names feels like a silly warning. Jon Stewart is awesome. So is Spike Lee, Carl Lewis, Dean Martin. There's no reference, though, for if someone has 2 trades for a name, so I'm unsure if I should trust Hunter Skinner. Side note, if his middle name were Butcher, he'd literally be a one-man farm-to-table meat factory. As a hockey player, Hunter Skinner has got decent puck skills and can make plays in transition, but doesn't have a lot of creativity or confidence in the offensive zone. He's a good but not great shooter on top of that. He's mobile, and while I don't see enough speed to be a threat on the rush, he can get the puck up and down the ice as a transporter into the neutral zone. Defensively, he's solid, and that's where the majority of his value comes from. He's physical and grinding and difficult to play against. I think if he can make some gains in confidence and playmaking vision, he could be a useful middle pair defenseman, but probably bottom pair defenseman who has upside. Braden Schneider's offensive game has been a work in progress, but it's making progress. He's gotten better in his puck skills and playmaking vision, but neither are quite where I would call them good yet. He avoids throwing pucks away in the form of shots from the blue line and instead looks to activate off the blue line for quality scoring chances, which is always a trait that will endear you to our podcast. He's also a decent shooter as well. He's a solid skater, but isn't one that uses it in offensive-minded settings that often. Defensively, he's physical and works hard, but it's his hockey IQ that's the impressive part of his defensive game. He knows the right moments to strike to create turnovers and kill plays. A trait that takes other young players years to learn is one that he has mastered right off the bat. I think he's a good middle pair defenseman who should get some special teams playing time this season, but if he can find some more offense, I think he could be a sneaky good top pair player. Offensively, Matthew Robertson has some raw skills, but there are some alarm bells that go off. He's got average-ish puck skills and playmaking vision. My big problem is his shooting. He shot early and often from downtown last season in the WHL, leading the league in shots by a defenseman with a wild 106 in 22 games. That's just shots that hit the net, not shots he tried to take that went wide, got blocked, got tipped. In addition to shooting from distance, he's not a good shooter and has very inconsistent mechanics. He also isn't very active in the offensive zone, and a lot of that seems to be from a conservative nature rather than from a lack of skill. He has great poise on breakouts and doesn't panic and go glassing out until it's absolutely necessary. Defensively, Robertson is solid and applies a physical toll on those who choose to attack his defensive zone, but he does so in an intelligent way so as not to draw reckless penalties. I think if he can work out some more offensive progress in his game, Robertson can be a big contributor to the Wolfpack this year. If not, worst case scenario, he's likely a solid defensive specialist who occasionally chips in some scoring help from the middle pair and probably shoots too many pucks from the point. There's a lot to like in Zack Jones' game, whose 21st birthday is Monday. So if you are in the Hartford area and run into Zack Jones, say happy birthday. He's got very good puck skills and playmaking vision, especially in the offensive zone where he uses fake shots to set up teammates and draws defenders to him to open up passing lanes. He uses fake shots on the ice, but Monday he's probably going to be taking real shots. He's also a one-man breakout as his skating ability and ability to manipulate forecheckers makes him able to get the puck up the ice easily. However, his skating is limited to straight line speed as he struggles to change direction or pivot quickly. This leads to him not being that solid a defender of his own blue line and forces him to be extra attentive in the defensive zone as someone, throws a stop and turns around. He needs to read that early because he's not going to be able to make that jump. I think he has upside, but could start the season lower down on the depth chart and kind of work his way up as he builds trust with the coaching staff. Those are the defenders. Cece, tell me about the voodoo that we will absolutely be seeing in Hartford this season.
Oh boy. Well, hey, let's talk about Kevin Kincaid first and foremost. So Kincaid has a history of being an average NHL goalie, which usually bodes well for a goalie at the AHL level. He also has a more recent history of not exactly being thrilled to not be in the NHL. Which Keith Kincaid are we going to get in Hartford this season? I have absolutely no idea because I am a hockey writer, not a sports psychologist. That is way above my pay grade. From a hockey perspective, Kincaid should be an excellent goalie for the Wolfpack this season. When he's on his game, he moves well, he tracks the puck at a high level, has enough athleticism left at 32 to get the job done. But when he is off his game, he's he bad. I have hope that Double K can evolve into a mentor role, as there really isn't a way forward for him in the Rangers organization at the moment, with the two younger, better goalies entrenched above him and no taxi squads this season. Next up, we have Tyler Wall. I don't think it's any stretch to say that Tyler Wall was bad last season, but I think there's reason for hope. First, 10 games does not a substantial sample size make. He has a lot of raw tools that bode well for him. He has an above-average frame and tracks the puck well. He's patient and moves well and finds his angle quickly. He still has problems, though, adjusting to the better shooters in the AHL compared to the NCAA. Wall's collegiate record and raw tools make me think he's going to have a bounce-back season this year, however. How far back he bounces is hard to say, but I do not believe that he's that far short of an average AHL goalie, and this year should course correct to that as he gets some starts in Hartford this season. Lastly, we have Adam Houska. Much like Tyler Wall, I don't think Houska is as bad as last season looked. He's still a bigger goaltender who can move well and has good athleticism. However, Houska struggles with puck tracking and consistency. He has the raw tools to succeed, but needs to work on the mental aspects of being a goalie at the AHL level. I think him and Wall split starts in some fashion behind Keith Kincaid, and you have a nice little threefer over there in Hartford in the goalie room.
Usually you got to pay double for that kind of action, Cotton.
That's a bold strategy, paying double for that kind of action. Let's see how it pans out. Oh, well, hey, we've covered all the individual players for the Wolfpack. Let's talk outcomes, and let's talk best outcome with Mr. Sean O'Brien.
Goaltending is going to dictate a lot of what happens with Hartford this year. Their up and down roster is solid, but how much Kincaid plays and what that effort looks like can make or break this season for them. If he looks good and they get some bounce back years from Greco, as well as progress from guys like Roning and Barron, they're going to be a competitive team. Best case, an 84-point finish for 58.33 points percentage and a third place divisional finish. CC, Hartford's used to worst case scenario here since the curse of the whale. Let's talk worst case scenario.
Well, first I owe you an apology because I kind of threw you for a loop with my mispronunciation of Tyroning. I called his dad Cliff Roning when I was a kid, and so that just stuck in my head. So my apologies for that. All right, worst case scenario for the Hartford Wolfpack. So worst case is either Kincaid looks disinterested or injuries force Wall and Houska to defend for themselves, and a repeat of last year's goalie nightmare ensues. We don't see the progress we hoped for from the Utes, and Greco still looks like a fast skating spectator. There's enough here to keep the wheels on, but worst case, they finish with 74 points and a 51.93 points percentage and a 7th place finish. That would work in the Pacific Division, but it would not be a playoff team in the Atlantic Division. Let's find some moderation here. Let's talk most likely case. Let's talk the model. Let's say what you're going to think, where you think Hartford is going to end up this year, Sean.
The model projects Hartford for a surprising 78.69 points and a 54.65% points percentage. Good for a 5th place divisional finish. I say surprising because the model hates the life out of this goaltending group, and that usually is the sink or swim portion of the model. But they have a lot of depth around the team this year, and I think that is going to help balance out. I can't imagine the goaltending is worse than last season, so I'm going to take the over on the model here, but not in a way that does much. It projected them for a little under 79 points. I'm going to say 81 points for the same divisional finish in 5th, but a slight uptick in points percentage.
That is fair.
All right, so we are going to take a break here. That was our Wolfpack season preview. We are going to head to Bridgeport next. If you're just here for Hartford's season preview, thank you for stopping by. Also, don't forget to subscribe to wherever you're listening to us from to get episodes in a timely fashion. Also, check us out on social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram at The Calder Farmstead and on Twitter at Calder Farmstead. So we're pretty fun on social media. I feel like if you enjoy us on this show, you'll enjoy our memes and random this and that. Playing Connect 4 with the Utica Comets. So Stay tuned if you want to listen to Bridgeport. If you're just here for Hartford, thank you for stopping by. We're going to head to break. We will be right back.
All right. One team down, one team to go in this preview capsule, or this preview episode rather. And let's talk about Bridgeport. Let's talk about their stats capsule, the final team of this episode number 53 of the Calder Farmstead podcast. The team name is the Bridgeport Islander. Island.
Dude,
Bridgeport
we
Island.
do not recognize that nonsense on this podcast. As you can see, we don't have that iconography on our background here. This is the Bridgeport Sound Tigers, and that's the way it's gonna stay.
Noted. Okay. Okay. The Bridgeport Sound Tigers then. Their head coach is Brent Thompson, entering his 8th season with the club. How he got 8 seasons in this current gig, I have no idea. I cannot tell you. 2021 record, 8-14-2-0. They were who we thought they were. They were bad last year. 0.375 points percentage. That was good for 3rd out of 3 teams in the Atlantic Division, the very, very small Atlantic Division last year. Affiliation for 2021-22. Of course, you have the New York Islanders and the Worcester Railers in the ECHL. Games scheduled for this upcoming season, 72. Let's talk additions. Let's talk subtractions. But first, the guys that were added to the team. You have Colin Adams, Andy Andreov, Anatoly Golashev. There we go. Anatoly Golashev, Reese Newkirk, Richard Panic at the Disco, Chris Terry, Paul Ledu, Robin Salo, and goaltender John Gillies. Did I pronounce that right? Gillies? Yeah, cool. Subtractions, you have Ryan McKinnon, Bobo Carpenter. Or was that Bob Carpenter?
Nope, that is Bobo.
Bobo. Tom Kuhnhackl. Andrew Ladd, Yannick Turcotte, Tanner Fritz, CJ Mott, and Francis Marotte. That's not confusing at all. Mott and Marotte. Okay. Moving on. Forwards. Let's talk the guys that are staying put. Let's talk the guys that are new additions. Let's talk the Bridgeport Island. Sound Tigers. Forward core.
So, Austin Zarnick, first up here, has good but not great puck skills. He's an above-average skater with better speed than edge work. He has good instincts in the offensive zone and is a good forechecker, reliably getting pressure on puck carriers. My biggest criticism of Zarnick is that he's too easily pushed to the outside on rushes instead of attacking the middle and attacking one-on-one instead of utilizing teammates. Defensively, he's around average, but closer to below average, and it's unlikely he'll ever be a defensive hero. He's probably your top, a top 6 center, probably your first line center in Bridgeport this season, but I could see a world in which he gets bumped to the second line. Chris Terry comes back to the AHL for his 12th season. He's been an offensive weapon for a long time and can still make it work at 32 because of the offensive toolkit, which a lot of the parts of are NHL caliber. He has high-end puck skills, shooting talent, and playmaking vision. He's just as dangerous with the puck in the offensive zone as he is without it. And he hasn't had more of a cup of coffee in the NHL in a few years because of his skating, which, as he's aged, his skating speed has, aged with him. With his hockey IQ and other skills, that keeps his skating from being a barrier at the AHL level and doesn't worry me too much this season. Defensively, he's capable, but I think he's best asked not to do a whole lot of defense because of what he can do offensively. He should be a top-line option for the Sound Tigers this season, and anything less is just bad coaching. Richard Panic. Well, I suppose when you pay your fourth line a buttload of money, NHL caliber guys who can contribute but have cheaper alternatives end up getting sent down. And that's exactly what Panic is, an NHL caliber bottom 6 player who is a cap casualty of the Islanders, the New York Islanders. Panic's skill set is shooting. He's got good puck skills and playmaking vision, but his standout ability is blasting pucks by goalies from mid-range with a nasty release and laser accuracy. Skating-wise, he's fast enough to keep pace with the AHL without a problem, but he won't be turning corners on defensemen. Defensively, he's not great and won't be asked to kill penalties or do too much. I could see a world in which Panik is underwhelming given his skill set, but still has success. I think he's a lock for top 6 production, but definitely could be higher given his sniping acumen. Dmitry Timoshev season was as lost as others from the 2021 Sound Tigers. He still has a good skill set, solid puck skills and good playmaking vision. He can make creative plays in the offensive zone and find teammates in space. He's not a good skater, though, and he struggles to play with pace. That plus his size hurts as he can get pushed to the perimeter easily at times. Defensively, he's slightly above average, but isn't anything terribly special. He could kill penalties if asked in a pinch. I expect him to be a bit more than a depth scorer this season, which is where he's fallen in previous years. Otto Cuevola's size would have you think, he's a net front guy getting tips and banging in rebounds, but that's not his game. He has good puck skills, especially in tight, and he can make plays with soft touch from the perimeter. He's about an average shooter, but is a better playmaker than sniper. He has a solid hockey IQ, but the biggest knock on him is flat out that he's not a good skater and cannot play with pace because of it. Defensively, he's decent and he can force turnovers in Zen, but he lacks higher end defensive awareness. I think he chalks in Bridgeport as a middle 6 forward this season, hopefully getting paired with someone who has some faster boots than he does. Simon Holmstrom, another Sound Tiger that had a bad season in 2021. Holmstrom has skills that show up in streaks. He has a decent set of puck skills and playmaking vision, but neither strike me as being anything more than average, which is a downgrade from where I felt like he was in his draft year. He still has a lot of junior style of play that is in need of being coached out of him. A lot of turning plays into one-on-ones instead of using teammates or space. His skating used to be a strength of his, but it seems like it's regressing, which is very concerning because that's not how skating is supposed to work as a prospect. He's also not a great shooting threat, but spent a lot of time on the half wall on the power play, getting set up for one-timers, which didn't make a lot of sense to me. I feel like he's a better playmaker than he is a shooter. Defensively, he's not going to do much and lacks physicality. I don't know what the New York Islanders brass saw when they drafted him in the first round. He's still young, there's still time, but I'm going to need to see big steps forward in his progress this season to believe in him because as of right now, I don't, and he looks like a bottom 6 forward for the Sound Tigers this season. Anand Garando is an extremely frustrating prospect to watch. He has flashes of higher-end playmaking and hockey IQ that continue to give hope to coaches and fans alike, but it never seems to materialize consistently. He has good puck skills and can make some creative plays in the zone. His shooting talent is around average. His biggest problem is that he avoids contact at all costs. I don't know if there were lingering injury issues or he just didn't feel comfortable getting hit last season, but I've never seen a player duck contact quite like him last season. Defensively, he's paying enough lip service to not get benched and will occasionally backcheck hard to pitch in, but it's a sporadic effort at best. I think Garando is an up and down the lineup player this season, which I don't mean as a compliment. I mean that more as a knock on his consistency. And that continues to be around a middle 6 producer that could do more, but just can't put it together. Those are the forwards. CC, let's talk blue line. Talk to me about defensemen.
Well, first and foremost, let's talk about Bodie Wild. I'm just kidding. He's not here. It doesn't bode well for your hockey career to run wild on Instagram when Lou Lamoriello is your GM, because Lou is the godfather and will absolutely bury you if you step out of line. The man created a whole ass island to ship guys to, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, Google Robida Island. That's Robidas, pronounced Robida Island. Now, back to your regular scheduled preview. Let's talk about Samuel Bolduc. Not a lot of guys had good seasons in Bridgeport in 2021. Bolduc was actually one of them, though. Bolduc skates very well for a 6'4" defenseman, which is absolutely terrifying for a guy his size. He has good puck skills and decent playmaking vision. His shot is NHL caliber, but he fires them from a distance too often for my liking. Defensively is where he's a bit up and down. He's not very physical and can put solid pressure on puck carriers, but he's not good away from the play in his own end and doesn't engage with open forwards in meaningful ways until the the play is coming to them. I think he's probably a top 4 defenseman for Bridgeport this year, but I don't know if he lives up to that production. Next, we have Paul Ledu. Ledu is a mobile defenseman with a good skill set, but was very frustrating to watch at times during his time in Hershey. He's capable of leading or joining the rush with his skating. His puck skills are good, but his playmaking vision will occasionally get very narrow, and he makes safe plays more often than I'd like. What was particularly frustrating last season was his shot selection. Ledu is a good shooter, but he'd try and beat goalies clean from outside the slot like he was an old Wild West 10 paces and draw duel. And with the draw that I have in his last name, that's actually a very fitting comparison. That limits his ability to score goals, as professional goalies don't often get beat clean from distance like that. Defensively, Ledu is just okay. He does seem to lose a lot of the net front. Of net front and board battles for a guy his size, though, which is rather concerning. I expect him to beat a top pairing defenseman for the Sound Tigers, this season, as well as getting time in on the power play. Next up, we have Robin Salo, not to be confused with former New York Islanders goaltender Tommy Salo. Now, I've seen a lot of optimism from fans of the New York Islanders about Robin Salo, and I just don't share it to their extent. He has decent puck skills and good enough playmaking vision, more in transition than in the offensive zone. His hockey IQ is high, and he's aggressive in the offensive zone, activating off the blue line often, which is always an attribute we like on the podcast. He's an average shooter, though. His skating has always been the concern, and it's because that it hinders his game in both offensive and defensive ways. He's not fast enough to lead the rush effectively. Defensively, he struggles to keep tight gaps and defend his blue line. In zone, he's a solid defender who anticipates the play well and rarely makes mistakes or gets lost in coverage. There's an upside here in Robbie Salo, but I've seen Robin. Sorry, not Robbie. I've seen a lot of projecting him as the next Devin Taves or Ryan Pulak, and I just don't see that. I think he's a reliable defender in the bottom 4 somewhere who might rotate in on the power play, but not too much more than that. Lastly, we have Grant Hutton. Hutton was among the many that had a throwaway season in Bridgeport last year for the Islanders.
Nope.
Offensively, he's a good skater for a guy his size. He has a big slap shot that is dangerous as a one-timer on the power play, but his puck skills and vision keep him from being that true power play quarterback the teams value so much. When asked to focus on skating with the puck and execute breakouts and transition, he's very effective, as well as when he's able to focus on ripping shots on the power play and not distributing the puck as a QB. If Bridgeport can run the power play from the half wall instead of through Hutton, I think he'll be more effective. Defensively, Hutton's good skating helps him defend his blue line well. In zone, he's good, but not great. I like Hutton in the bottom 4, who occasionally rotates in on the power play, but not much more. All right, that's it for D-men. Let's shift on over to goalies. And Shawnee, let's talk about those practitioners of voodoo themselves for the Bridgeport hockey team.
Let's start with John Gillies, who is their big free agent acquisition. Gillies plays smaller than his frame, and while he has decent movement, it does break down on occasion. He has decent athleticism as well and can make tough post-to-post saves, a little bit more than average. He's been up and down the past 2 seasons, and while I don't think he's a top AHL starter by any means, he should be a reliable but unsexy starter for the Sound Tigers this season. Backing him up in net is very likely to be Jakub Skarek. I thought Skarek wasn't as bad as his numbers let on. He tracks the puck okay and moves well, but isn't exceptional at either. He's athletic and can make tough saves, but struggles to come up in big moments when the play breaks down in front of him, which admittedly was often last year in Bridgeport. He struggles with consistency, but he's young, so that's kind of to be expected. With 30 starts and a full camp under his belt, I think this is going to be a season where we see him take strides forward and should be a respectable 1B/backup to Gillies this season. We could see a little bit of Ken Appleby, but I think this is Skarek's job here. All right, those are all the skaters we feel the need to talk about in Bridgeport. Let's look at outcomes. Cece, best case scenario.
Oh, best case scenario. So we got sucked in last year by Bridgeport's roster. We did predict them. Yeah, I'll get to it. We thought they'd be a slower, heavier team, but they look to have enough skill and depth to be a contender. While stylistically, we pegged them accurately, results-wise, we were very off the mark. This season, the roster looks to have a similar feel. On paper, it looks solid, but they lack team speed. If they can get steps forward from some of the youths and get the contributions from veterans, we expect this should be a very competitive team. Best case scenario is 85 points for a 59.03 points percentage and a third place divisional finish. And unlike last year, third place is actually pretty good.
That's fair. That is a fair assessment of third place in the changing years. Let's talk worst case here, and that's copy and paste from last season, where a lot of the veterans just don't look motivated, and team speed gets them burned by faster, more skilled teams. Last year it was Providence. This year it's still probably Providence. John Gillies doesn't provide the cover we were hoping for in net, and the special teams continue to be a disaster. The Atlantic has a lot of quality teams this season, and even a few slip-ups can really tank your position in the standings. Worst case scenario, they finish with 79 points and a 54.86% points percentage and a 6th place finish in the division, which may or may not be playoffs. It's really hard to keep track.
I think only 7 teams out in the Atlantic, so unfortunately, no, it would not be a playoff position. All right, let's find the middle, the happy medium of the spectrum, or at least as close to the middle as we can, with the most likely case scenario. So the model currently projects them for 82.77 points for a 57.48% points percentage. Let's see. That's a third place divisional finish. Yeah, that was the same as the best case scenario. I think that's a bit high. I'm going to take a slight haircut on that given, as I don't think that highly of Brent Thompson, and I'm concerned about the team speed aspect in a division that has some pretty fast teams. I think they're good enough and put the line at 81 points for a 56.25 points percentage and a 4th place divisional finish, which would qualify them for the postseason. All right, so just two teams for that one, and yeah, that's it for episode number 53. Had to get that under the gun before both of these guys debuted their 21-22 seasons on Friday night. Thanks for watching and or listening. The Calder Farmstead is part of the Full Press Radio Network. You can listen to this and a number of other great hockey, sports, and sports entertainment programs at www.fullpresscoverage.com. Just click the podcast drop-down menu in the top right portion of the website. You click it and you can enjoy.
If you're enjoying the Calder Farmstead, please make sure you subscribe to get episodes in a timely fashion. Also, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please rate and review the podcast. Or if you're watching it on YouTube, like the video and comment what you thought of the show, as that helps other people find the show. And your reviews help us improve it. You can also follow the show on social media at Calder Farmstead on Twitter and at The Calder Farmstead on Instagram and Facebook. Big thanks to Adrian Drake, who made our theme music. You can find him on social media at AD_dysfunction. That's DYSFUNCTION. So he can make music for you too. CC, where can people find you?
Well, my name is CC Hockley. You can find me representing Full Press Hockey on Twitter at FPC_AHL. And at my personal Twitter account, my handle over there is at CCHawk. That's SEESEEHAWK. Check out my writing on the Full Press Coverage Network at www.fullpresshockey.com. Shawnee, where can the people find you?
Sleep. I'm Sean O'Brien. You can find me on Twitter at Sean O'Brien81. That's SEANOBRIEN81. I'm also on Instagram at Sean O'Brien_81. You can find my stats work on Tableau at bit.ly/data-dump-and-chase. All lowercase, all one word. CC, it is 2:36 in the morning on the East Coast. Please take us home.
Gladly. That will do it for the Calder Farmstead podcast, episode number 53. For Sean O'Brien, I'm CC Hockley. And once again, we thank you all for tuning in. And And Sean's got to go get some sleep. I got some editing to do. But until next time, y'all keep your stick on the ice.